I'm going to start things off with you like I do all my guests, and that is with a cheers. I'm drinking Shiny 100% apples from local farms. They're based out of Niagara, vegan and gluten-free. I know it's a little bit early, but here to party, Alexa's Country Party. What's Andrea drinking?
I'm starting early with a Diet Coke.
Cheers. You've been on Dateline since 2012, and to me, Dateline is a staple show. It's like Young and the Restless, Law and Order, something that everybody watches. Besides Kristen Chenoweth, who else is a fan of the show?
Amanda Seyfried and Kaylee Cuoco, formerly of Big Bang Theory. I've heard the show mentioned on the Kardashians. I've heard Charlize Theron talk about it, Denzel Washington. Probably our biggest star is Taylor Swift. It's her favorite show.
I'm sure your kids were excited about that.
Absolutely.
Mom's cool.
Right. Her team has gotten us tickets to concerts. Kind of cool when your mom has like a connection through Taylor.
What's the dynamic like between you and your colleagues on Friday nights when the show's airing? Do you guys text each other and ask questions or say good job?
So usually I need a break because all week I've been immersed in Dateline world. I don't usually make it an appointment television, but the way that I do end up watching the episodes is we do Talking Dateline. It's a podcast. We take turns hosting. When I do Talking Dateline, I really watch the show carefully, make notes, write questions. So that's how I stay in the loop of what everyone's doing. And I learn things from my fellow correspondents too.
If you're enjoying this interview, hit that subscribe button. I've got lots more on the way. Not only has the show grown, but science and technology has too. DNA, for example, wasn't used much before the 90s, and now it's used to solve many cases. Ancestry websites, they're also being used to solve cold cases. TikTok is bringing a ton of awareness to all these cases, especially now since true crime has gone like viral. It is the cool thing now. Dateline doesn't get stale. It's able to keep up with the times.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And sometimes when we do a cold case, we'll go back in the time vault and be like, remember, there was no cell phones. DNA technology was either non-existent or just emerging. It's getting harder and harder, I feel like, to get away with murder because of all these techniques that now exist. If you don't know this by now, if you're committing a crime, if you have family members who are on those sites, those ancestry sites like 23andMe, if they don't check the private box, you could be in trouble. A lot of people who go on those sites, they want their profile to be public because they want to connect with family members that they maybe don't know that they had. It's part of sort of the fun of the site. But if you're a relative of that person, for example, 23andMe, the police can find you. So police can go into those databases if the person has checked the public box. Once they get names of people and where they live, you can start fanning it out and really sort of figuring out, okay, well, the murder happened in this city. They have a third cousin who lives 2 blocks from there or whatever. And it starts to narrow down. I just gave you an easy example, but it's a lot harder than that. But it starts to narrow down suspects.
I'm waiting for AI. I think that's going to play a part in all of this soon.
So I have a podcast that comes out every Thursday called Dateline True Crime Weekly. You can find it everywhere. We just did a whole segment on AI and crime fighting. AI is now starting just in its infancy of really changing the way that crimes are solved. I feel like that's going to be the next wave of crime solving. It's here. It's just going to keep picking up steam.
I have to bring up my favorite case. It's called Dead Man Talking. Not only was it entertaining, but we also got to see a different side of you. One of the best parts, I would say, of the episode was the fact that you were trying to hide your laugh during an interview. Normally, this would have been a serious conversation, but the guy was acting ridiculous, so I don't blame you. What I thought was pretty cool, though, was that in editing, they chose to leave that in, and I don't think that would happen normally.
Well, I think the first time we aired that, we took out the laugh, and then the second, when we did the follow, because there was no information, I think we left it in the second time. What happened was I was interviewing him, and the producer who was next to me started laughing, and the cameraman started laughing. You know, I don't want to laugh at anyone I'm interviewing. Like, that is not my goal, but you know how it is if you're in class and someone starts laughing and you start laughing and you can't help it. That's what happened.
Yes, and you also have a real unique way of getting people to open up to you. Maybe not him, but at the same time, you're also not afraid to say what's on your mind and call people out, especially when it comes to family dynamics. Being a mom of 6, I'm sure that's why you're extra compassionate towards kids. You even straight up told somebody that they weren't parent of the year. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, did she really just say that?
Oh yeah, that was Delbert in Texas.
You remember, you got a good memory with all this.
Well, he blamed his 6-year-old son for the fire, which it's not impossible that a 6-year-old boy could start a fire. But decades later, now you're blaming your son who's been through hell. It was just so wrong.
Another great example is when you told this young guy, I'm honestly trying to understand what's going on in your brain. Is there a chip missing?
Oh gosh, I remember saying that. That was Texas as well. That was the jeweler's son. Another Nick, that was Nick Shaughnessy, because he admitted to me that he carried out the killing of his father and tried to kill his mom.
Many hosts either aren't brave enough to make these kind of statements or they can't get away with it. Do you feel like you can more? Because if I went on Dateline, I don't think I could make these kind of statements.
I'm very authentic in interviews. I try to be my authentic self. I say what's on my mind in the moment. It is a tape program. So if the network has an issue with anything I say, it will be discussed. And we have legal department, standards department. And if they don't think something I'm saying is fair or that they want it out, then they'll take it out. So I'm just going to say what I'm thinking in the moment. We've had discussions about facial expressions I've made, whether they should stay in or not. And that's where standards come in. A lot of the people I interview have been convicted. Either they've made a plea deal, they've confessed to the crime, or they've been convicted of murder. So you do have some leeway. It's a little bit of a different vibe if I interview someone before they've gone on trial. You want to challenge them, but at the same time, innocent until proven guilty. And they have not been proven guilty in that moment. So you just have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and there's clearly so many different elements and moving parts for an episode to come together. Yet it seems like it happens really quick, like the turnaround time.
When we fire up the Dateline machine, we can get things on quickly. We did a Canadian story in my hometown in Blue Mountain, and we have 12 acts in a 2-hour show. We had an editor and a producer for each act. That's a big team. And then not to mention all the associate producers, the senior producer, executive producer, but we got it on. We wanted to get that one on first because 2020 was working on that story as well. So when we want to, we can get them on really fast. I would say that sort of the lead time is like 3 to 4 months. So that's probably the typical. But I mean, look, I've had some Datelines that have taken so long to get to air that I've had multiple pregnancies within a Dateline.
I see different hairstyles.
Oh my gosh, that too. I just had one on that was different hairstyles. It was the podiatrist, murder for hire.
That's funny. Going back to Blue Mountain, I know you enjoy coming back home, but when it's to investigate and highlight such a tragic case, it has to be especially hard. Do you like keeping Ontario as your own safe space, or are you down for bringing justice regardless of where the crime happened?
Obviously, I don't love that there was a crime that happened there. The detective went to my high school, so that was kind of cool. And I interviewed my friend Anne. She was the neighbor. Interesting being home like that. But I mean, I love Ontario. I love coming home. If there's ever a story, I'd be the first to raise my hand. Any excuse to go see my family too. And we get excited every time we're going home.
That's awesome. Things can get intense and you know about a lot. And clearly you've got good memory of each individual case.
Times.
Being a mom, how are you not a nervous Nelly?
No, I definitely am. I mean, I try not to be too overbearing. That I've got a Dateline brain. You can't erase all those experiences I've had. So I certainly am very cautious. And I've got some teenagers. One's driving, and if I don't hear from them, like right away, I get worried, all that stuff. I know other parents obviously worry too. Maybe it's an added layer when you work for Dateline.
I guess having a husband in the Marines too doesn't hurt.
Yeah, he's certainly protective as well. He always thinks about the boys that come around now that the girls are old enough to date, and junior proms is coming up. We've had a lot of promposals around here. Yeah,
it's so American.
Right.
Despite having 6 kids, it doesn't look like you had to sacrifice your career. Not only are you doing Dateline, but you're also writing but involved in other projects. Do you think it's because you came to Dateline with so much experience already under your belt that you were given the flexibility to have a family life too?
For me, it was like I just was going to do it. And there's certainly things I've missed out on. I was supposed to go to the Olympics in Russia, but I found out my daughter was going to be born during the Olympics. So that was off the table. There are sacrifices. And I've just been really lucky. I've been in jobs where they're understanding. And I also say to myself too, like, this is your job. You need to do these things regardless if you have children or not. And if you don't want to do these things because you have kids, then don't do the job. It's a juggle. And I just make it work.
How was the transition from news to investigative journalism?
Yeah, it was real adjustment at first because I was doing mostly Good Morning America, and that's day of air stories. Every day you're scrambling to get something on the air. You're traveling around really fast paced. And then you go to Dateline and you're like, oh, whoa. Like,
totally different.
It's totally different. We do 2-hour shows and the interviews are 3 hours long. If I do an interview now that's for like a day of air thing, I'm like, it's over in like 20 minutes. And I'm like, whoa, that was cool. I'm so short. Because the interviews are grueling. They're very emotionally exhausting. They're long, lots to go over. They're not for everybody. They're challenging, but you get lots of good nuggets when they're that long. So it was definitely an adjustment. It was different.
Did any of the other Dateline journalists guide you through that transition?
Oh my gosh, they were the best. Like Josh Mankiewicz, he's been so nice to me since the day I started. He's the one I talk to the most, just chit chat. Keith Morrison, our fellow Canadian, is one of the most lovely human beings I have ever met. And I'm so grateful that he's my friend. It was interesting because you hear network news like some backstabbing, or how you hear that sometimes women competing for things. There just was nothing like that at NBC. And I'm being totally serious, not me just trying to protect something. It's real. These are real friendships. And it's a very supportive staff. Also, my boss, Liz Cole, she's our senior executive producer. She is like, seriously, when it comes to having a family and having children.
Totally. That's great. I know with the country music industry, there's so many females that try to build off of this momentum. And then also in the back of their mind, they're thinking like family life, how can I juggle both? And it's something that as they get close to 40, they're wondering, is this really something that is possible for me? Anyone can start a true crime platform and gain an audience. Do you think if Andrea was about 20 years old in 2026, that this would be a route that she would do?
I might, because when I was in my 20s, I loved true crime before it was a big thing. I saw this documentary. It was about this woman, Laurencia Bembenek. She was somewhere in the Midwest, and she was accused of murder. And I believe there was a police officer involved in the case. It's been a while since I've thought about it, but she ended up going to prison and she escaped. She went to Canada. She was caught, that she found a lawyer, and she ended up getting cleared of the murder. I think it was like she wasn't like fully exonerated. It wasn't like she was not guilty, but they basically realized that she didn't do it. And it was that if she signed this document, she'll never go to prison again. It was something like that. I can't remember what they call that. That's like a legal thing, but there were so many twists and turns. It was just an incredible story. And that really was what kicked off my love of true crime. I'd always liked crime stories like Agatha Christie, and I read Nancy Drew when I was a kid, but that documentary really changed things for me, where I thought, oh, wow, this is so interesting. And then when I got into news, I would really gravitate towards the bizarre or the diabolical stories.
Okay, so I'll be adding that to my list too. Speaking of podcasts, aside from Talking Dateline, which you already went over, you are involved in another one. Tell us what that one's all about.
Dateline True Crime Weekly. That's my weekly podcast on Thursdays. If you're a true crime junkie, that one, we're really breaking down the cases every week and what's happening. And our producers are in court all over the country, sometimes all over the world, and they're bringing updates on cases that are making headlines. And then we'll have interesting segments as well.
On any of these shows, do you address audiences' comments or questions?
We do that on Talking Dateline. You can send in your comments or questions on social media. We pick a handful of them and we'll address the questions.
Yeah, because even though the show is 2 hours long, it can't cover everything. I know many times I'm like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it's like, I need a place to continue the conversation about these cases.
And people's questions are great. I'm always so impressed with the things that people are thinking about. And actually, the one I just taped, we had a juror from the case make a comment on social media. And I was like, oh, that's a first, a juror. And the juror had a really good question. That's my favorite part of Talking Dateline.
It's been so great chatting with you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. And I'm glad that I'm a country music fan.